Today's message from Dr. Christian Sorensen was recorded January 27th, 2019, and it's titled Back to the Basics, Part 3, How to Use It and the Attitude of Prayer, affirming Spirit loves expressing as me. And today we welcome back the sweet music of Cahill and Delene, and you can visit them on their band page, Hot Pursuit Music Entertainment, to find out more. And come visit us on our website at seasidecenter.org, and you can always join us in Encinitas, California on a Sunday sometime, where we always have great music, a spirited message, and a joyful, loving, vibrant community that await you.
Good morning, Seaside. It is my honor to introduce our guest artists. I love when they're here. They're just a wonderful, beautiful couple. They've been married. This year will be 30 years. 30 years. And also wanted to share that they're going to be going on the trip with Carl Anthony to India coming up. It'll be their first time doing that, joining him, and so that's going to be exciting. I can't wait to hear about all that. It's going to be amazing. But without further ado, and Delene. There we go. You take those.
Okay. Good, this one's on too. Always good to have a backup unit. Does he have that one muted? Okay, there we go. Yeah.
All right, so this is a song by Karen Drucker. And as you know, we sing a lot of positive affirmation songs here at Seaside. So this is one that we need help with, all right? And this is called Happy, Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise. That's what you're going to sing with us. And it repeats many times during the song. So we're going to absolutely be singing this all week long, right? All right, here we go. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I am happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise. Happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise. And I know the light of love is shining in my eyes. I'm so happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise. Yeah. I am happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise. Happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise. And I know the light of love is shining in my eyes. I'm so happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise. A little birdie told me life is so sweet, and I listened to his song. I know I am complete. I have all the keys to love, joy, and peace. The power is infinite, and love will increase. I'm so happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise. Happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise. And I know the light of love is shining in my eyes. I'm so happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise. A little birdie told me that life is so sweet. As I listen to his song, I know I am complete. I have all the keys to love, joy, and peace. The power is infinite, and love will increase. I'm so happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise. Happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise. And I know the light of love is shining in my healthy, wealthy, and wise. Every day I'm happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise. Can't you see I'm happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise? I'm so happy, healthy, wealthy. I'm so wealthy, I'm so happy. Ooh, yeah. Oh yeah, do you feel it?
That is Cahill and Delene. My goodness. Happy, healthy, and wise. I like that. Reminded me of a plaque my dad used to have sitting in our breakfast room, and it said, I would rather be happy, healthy, than poor and sick. It was like, yeah, count me in. Happy, healthy, and wealthy. That was it. Happy, healthy, and wealthy, then poor and sick. Like, why do you need to give up one for the other? You can have it all, that's for sure. And so a good way to that is with this morning's message. As you may know, we have been going over the initial chapters or the intros into Ernest Holmes' book, The Science of Mind. And the last of the 4 initial chapters, which we're calling the basics of the science of mind, is called How to Use It. And this whole year is about healing. And so this morning's message in particular is the attitude of prayer. And so I'll share a little bit about how to pray, but really I think the key is the attitude to prayer that is going to make the difference to produce that happy, healthy, and wise experience in our life. Because, I mean, here's a little tip that we'll teach you differently in class in a sense, but it's like just a wish or a desire to pray, in a sense, is a prayer itself. You know, if you've got a desire within your heart and your soul that says, you know what, there could be more in my life right here, there's an opening that's going on. Now, the attitude is important, and so I begin to get my mind and my awareness in a field that I can begin to understand spirit. And prayer is a conscious, Ernest Holmes says this, prayer is a conscious approach to reality. It is the acquiescence of the mind. It is the embodiment of a greater idea. It is being receptive to spirit. And so what we want to do is begin to open up to that greater expression of spirit in our life and recognize that the prayer is a divine download that is available to anybody who's opening up their mind and their consciousness to be aware of the greater expression of spirit. And then to be able to have the attitude that there is something greater that wants to show up in my life makes us more available to it. Because it is right for us to experience the good, because religious science is about demonstrating our good. The opening lines from this chapter on how to use it, they start off with one of the great difficulties in the new order of thought is that we are likely to indulge in too much theory and too little practice. You know, as a matter of fact, we can only know as much as we can demonstrate. Otherwise, what is so may or may not be the truth. It's only what we can demonstrate do we know as the truth. And so as we begin to shift our awareness and make ourselves available, we come to recognize that there's something inside that wants to take form in our life. And as we begin to recognize this attitude is something that's not even really spoken. One of the books we're using in the practitioner class right now is from H.B. Jeffries. He wrote this book called The Principles of Healing. And this book came out in 1903, it predated Ernest's era. Jeffries is from like 1870s. And one of the things he said is that it's not the words, it's the consciousness. See, that's the attitude I'm speaking about here. It is the consciousness. It's not so much the words that are spoken, but rather it is the words under the tongue that will touch your patient even more so than the words that come from above the tongue. See, it's not the words. Ernest Holmes told us that it is not the symbol. It is the idea behind the symbol. Words, but it's the same thing. It's not the symbol, but it's the idea behind the symbol that creates an effective prayer. It's as we begin to embrace that and feel and sense it, that spirit begins to show up in our life. And what's important is that we have this faith that, as he was talking about, is an acquiescence of the mind and the embodiment of the divine idea, to have a faith. But he also says not just only a faith of God knowing and being able to do, but a confidence in our approach. You got that? It's not only a faith in that power and that presence, it's a confidence in your approach. And that's what one learns in classes, is to be able to approach it with an assurance that no matter what is going on, I can call forth a greater experience. I can remember one of the times I had a speaking gig at a conference out on outside of Atlanta on the Chattahoochee River. Kathy, you probably spoke at that Simpson grounds on the I'd never even heard of the Chattahoochee River. But anyway, I flew into Atlanta to be picked up at the airport. I got outside with my bag, and I waited 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and nobody came to pick me up. And I was not pleased in that moment and began to experience less than ministerial thoughts. And it was before I carried a cell phone, which was not the wisest choice of things. But anyways, I had to go inside and find a payphone. Called the person, and I called them, I guess, at home. I said, "Where are you?" Kind of rhetorical, because I called them. I knew exactly where they were not. And they said, "Where are you?" I said, "Well, I'm at the Atlanta airport." They said, "No." I said, "Yeah, that's what the sign says." And they said, "But you're not supposed to get in until this afternoon." Well, my ticket didn't know that. The pilot didn't know that. And I breathed, and I said, and they said, "Okay, just relax. We'll be there in about an hour." So I go outside in summertime. It is, I won't say sweltering, but it's definitely humid there. Everything was perspiring, including the buildings. And I find my shade, and I'm sitting out there because I don't want to miss the person, and I'm feeling that extra energy. And I get to hear a voice inside that says, "You could be in heaven." I say, "Are you kidding me? I'm in Atlanta in the summer." And I say, "Okay, close your eyes and go to heaven." But then I heard this voice again. It says, if you're in heaven, you don't have to close your eyes. It's like, if you're in heaven, you don't need to close your eyes because it's all around you. And so I just sat back, chilled out a bit. I started looking around. All of a sudden, I saw the excitement of families meeting families that were just getting there. I began to see the excitement of people taking off and going on an adventure. I saw the porters bringing out bags and putting them in limousines, and the happiness and the joy and the excitement that was going on. People who were actually, getting a car and ready to drive off into heaven. They were ready to have a heavenly experience. I was even so much in heaven. One person came up and said, "Would you watch my bags for a few moments? I got to go and make a call." And I said, "No problem." And then I realized I'm the deliverer of heaven for this person who just came up. How exciting. The time was just going where next thing I knew, the person I was waiting for drove up. And so this game of playing, I'm in heaven now, and I can keep my eyes open. I don't have to close them and go off into this blissful state of somewhere else. I'm going to play the game of finding heaven because this is my conscious use of prayer. I'm having this attitude of the divine and recognizing heaven everywhere. I do it in hospitals with people who are sitting there and they're waiting for a report to come. And it's like ridiculous how long they make some people wait for reports. It's almost criminal. But they didn't take that back. It's just, but you take a test, tell them what it said. But anyway, so, in this moment, you get to see, all these wonderful angels that are helping you out. I've sat with people in chemo wards and say, this is heaven here, and they begin to see the liquid gold that is moving into their body and the divine intelligence in the form of chemicals of the expression of God. I've worked with individuals who are trying to put proposals together and recognize that the coming together the pieces is heaven on earth, and relationships that seem just challenging. If you begin to bring the attitude of heaven with your eyes open to the very place, things begin to shift, and not because you are trying to mock up this particular expression, but because you are choosing to see heaven here. And sometimes when we find ourselves in that dire challenges and difficulties, it's important for us to see the blessings of them, because when we are seeing the blessings of the challenges, they become blessings in our life. It is amazing, that reciprocal kind of activity that goes on. But it's the attitude that you bring if you want to experience healing in your life, in any area, to be able to lift your view as Spirit sees in a new kind of way, in a God kind of way, and recognize the presence of God that is unfolding. And sometimes Spirit needs to shake you a little bit in order to have the shift go on, if you would. We've got a wonderful minister who's given us the idea of this telethon here. Her name is Reverend Michelle Wadley, and she has a workshop called No Mud, No Lotus. And I thought, now that's pretty good. So if we are willing to see the blessings that abound, that is the attitude that we can bring to our daily life, that attitude of prayer, of praying without ceasing, and recognizing that if there is a difficulty there, just possibly that's what it took to activate that, to be able to go through an experience is sometimes what is necessary to bring forth that love energy of our being that we were born with to bring to this world. But when we are called upon to go a little bit deeper, we discover what we have inside of us. So in a sense, it is a blessing, and it is okay. You don't need to stay there. You don't need to live with the pain or the difficulty or the challenge. I loved what Dr. Tom Costa used to say. He made this line famous. He said, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I don't have to build a house there." You know, it's like you just keep going. You keep moving with the attitude of this is where I am, and you know what? It is getting me to where I'm going. It's getting me to bring the gift. It's getting me to bring the love that I came into this world with, and it is exciting. It is dynamic. It is real. It is spirit. It is divine, and it is God-given. And life is fluid. It's constantly taking shape. It's continuously releasing one and taking on the shape of a new one. Ernest Holmes says it in his book from this chapter that we're working on today, the final chapter of the introductory chapters. First one was the thing itself, that is God. And what it does is it shows up in our life, the level of our belief. The way it works is through a law that is definite. And today it's about an attitude, or it's how it works. It is, it's always there, always available, but it shows up in our life by the attitude that we have around it. And so from this chapter, Ernest Holmes, he writes that when we are dealing with real life, with thoughts, impulses, and emotions, we're dealing with causation, with the original cause. And what we should be most careful with is what we deal with is with these powers and with these forces. In dealing with this subtle power of mind, the spirit, we're dealing with a fluent force. It is forever taking form. It's forever deserting the previous form. Thus, a practitioner of the science should not be confused over any given form, but should know that any form which is not of the original harmony is subject to change. For the original spirit is harmony. It is beauty. It is truth. It is everything and goes with the ultimate reality. The universe is not divided against itself. So treatment is not willing things to happen. It is to provide within ourselves an avenue through which they may happen. Treatment opens up the avenues of thought. It expands the consciousness and lets reality through. We already live in the perfect universe, but it needs to be seen mentally before it can become part of our experience. Okay. Got that? It's fluid. It's constantly willing to take shape and unfold in ways that are right in our world. It releases the old form, but too often we're holding on to that form through our habits, through our previous beliefs, holding on to the way it had been. And those habits sometimes will show up in our life in areas of constraint or difficulty, or that which isn't flowing with the ease and the grace that we envision is a possibility, and it's an opportunity for us to take a look at that and say, hey, what's going on here? You need to take a hold of it and listen to it. Remember as a kid, I don't know if you did, but you take a seashell and you put it up to the ear and you can hear the ocean inside of that, and under the medical scrutiny, it says that it is the pulse that is moving through us that is being echoed back. It is the ocean, if you would, of our blood that is moving, that you're able to hear the flow going on. It is something greater that we're able to focus in on that moment. And what it says to me sometimes how important it is to hold on to something and to listen. Because so often I've got this habitual thought or this idea that just closes off listening. And what I recognize for myself is that when I hold or when I'm held and when I listen or I'm listened to, it's just a special moment. And that shell, it doesn't lose its mystery because I can define how it works. It is still magical. It's still mystical. And as We begin to recognize that there is more to this world. Even if we can define how certain pieces work, there is still that infinite that is magical and mystical, and I need to drop some of my habitual thinking, my robotic thinking, my mechanical thinking, that which got set in motion by bringing into my awareness, holding, say, hey, this isn't really working. I need to listen. Now, what's going on here? You know, when you listen with somebody, there's a healing that goes on. People feel touched and empowered. We've got to drop some. Anybody who's creating greater good in their life, successful individuals are people who are able to take charge of their thinking. They create new habits and new ways of being. Jack Canfield talks about successful individuals in his success principles, that those individuals take a look at their habits, they reevaluate them, and let go of the ones that are not serving them in getting to the new place. And then he lists some of the habits that people hold on to that are denying them. And that is, he listed like procrastination, like forgetting people's names seconds after you've been told them, delivering your deliverables not in a friendly, timely kind of manner, taking phone calls or texting or looking at your phone when you're with other people or with your partner or out to dinner or working too hard, or there's just all sorts of things. And what he says is you take a look at those things that are showing up in your world and you say, how can I change that habit, that way of thinking, that way of being in order to be more consciously approaching where it is I want to go? How am I going to get there? What is it that I am going to do in order to get myself there? And as I begin to align myself with that, ways begin to show. And if you can't get yourself out of the pain, it is the time to go to a spiritual practitioner. Today is Sacred Sunday. It's no announcement Sunday at the beginning of the service. We ask all of our practitioners to stand here, and we'll give you an opportunity to come up and ask for prayer. These are the individuals who have been trained in that art and science of prayer, of being in that resonant field of that divine expression of spirit so they can speak the spiritual truth. They don't know the pain that you're in. They listen, they hear what you're going through, your human experience. But they're not like physically feeling that. And so they are able, in a sense, to know the truth a little bit easier. And when you have that faith that acquiesces its hold of mind on this is the story and this is the truth, to embodying that divine ideal that can come forth, healing can happen. It's like in our choir. Not that this is the truth of our choir, but let's say in the choir there are a lot of voices that were not on key. But if you got a couple ringers in there, who are on key and can sing and hold that note while and not fall prey to the other sounds that are going on, all of a sudden others come around and begin to match that note. It is a divine resonance, if you would. Hit the C chord on the piano and the drum skin vibrates. You hit a tuning fork and all the C's begin to go. The violins go. There is this resonance that takes place. That's why people go and listen to some of these guru guys that come sit here at Seaside. You sit down and what they say, that's definitely not as much as I can get in 20 minutes. But and some of their stories you've heard. But there is a field around them. They have spent all these years and decades in prayer and consciousness and meditation. And just to sit in that auric field, that vibrational field, there is something that is going on. Have you felt that before? That's the attitude, the vibration I'm speaking about that goes beyond the how to pray. It is the attitude, it is the symbols, as Ernest says, or the words behind the ideal. That is what makes up the power to your prayer. And so as you begin to do that, you've got to go forth with a commitment, with a knowing that this is where I'm going. This is it. And I'm not going to be knocked off because God and I are a majority. The Spirit and I, that's all it takes. Because it's only spirit. Because, you've got this faith, this conviction that is so strong. Ernest Holmes says, you don't want the faith in God? Really? No. What we want is the faith of God. Because what we are is spirit expressing. And so in is something outside of ourselves. Of is this is what's coming through me. And as we begin to have a more conscious union, Ernest says we want to have, for spiritual power, we want to have a conscious union with the whole, is what Ernest says. And, your life is reflecting back to you. You want to know where your thinking is? Look at your life. Well, it's not really my fault. Well, what would you be if you didn't blame and, you didn't complain? No blame, no complain. Where would you be? So, take a look at your life and recognize that the things going on in your world are really expressions of a consciousness. Healing or not healing is a secondary expression of the consciousness or the attitude. And if it's an attitude of prayer, a higher consciousness, healing happens. But you've got to have the faith and convictions to stay true to it. There's a story of a snail who was climbing a tree in wintry, cold, late spring, probably back in the East Coast because it was a cherry tree that, it could be Montana, I guess. But anyway, I don't know where the tree was, but it was a cherry tree, and he was climbing this bare tree at the end of spring, and like the sparrows were just kind of making fun of him. I mean, they were just making jokes at his expense. One finally flew over to him and said, knucklehead, don't you know that there are no cherries on this tree? He said, but when I get to the top, there will be. That's the kind of conviction. That's the kind of commitment. That's the kind of vision that we want to have. Local guy, just a beloved business guru, Ken Blanchard. He talked about the difference between interested and commitment. When you're interested, you will do something when it's convenient. If you're 100% commitment, you will do it no matter what. See, that's what we want. That snail was committed. It was going. Commitment is I am on board, I'm doing it, it doesn't matter, over and out. If you have 100% commitment to monogamy, you're not going to be thinking about other options. You're not going to be wondering, what if? You know that door is closed, the die has been cast, the bridge has been burned, your mind is free. It is not carrying different burdens, having daily conversations of other possibilities that exist because you are committed 100%. If you're committed to exercising a half hour, 5 days a week, you will do that. No matter what, whether you're traveling, whether it is raining out, whether you stayed out partying too late at night, you were still going to do that next day because that is your commitment. You make a commitment to brush your teeth every night, 100%. You are brushing your teeth. That is what 100% looks like, not 99.9. I read some statistics about what it's like to be 99.9% accurate. If you're looking at O'Hare Airport in Chicago, that's 2 unsafe landings a day. That unsafe drinking water, that would be 45 minutes a month of unsafe drinking water coming your way. That would be 50 babies dropped at delivery every day. That is 500 mistaken procedures and operations a week. That is, 16,000 mismailed pieces of mail or delivered mail an hour. 22,000 it's 20,000 misprescriptions a year. And I just saw a bunch more, but I'm not. That's enough. Anyway, but you get the point here. And 99.9 doesn't cut it for us. We have got to have that total conviction. We've got to have that total belief. And if we have that conscious, as Ernest said, for our spirit, greater spiritual good, a conscious union with the wholeness is what we're looking at. It is a divine vibration. It is our oneness with spirit. And when you do that, things happen in your life. All of a sudden, you are living in heaven. You begin to see heaven. You begin to be the delivery point in which heaven shows up, whether it's in the hospital, whether it's in an airport, or whether it's within a family dynamic that is less than presence. You are seeing that dire situation as a blessing, and it becomes a blessing, not because you're trying to put it all together, but because you're beginning to see as Spirit sees. That's what prayer is about. It's what happens under the tongue, not the words that you're speaking, but it is the listening. Let your prayer be hearing Spirit, not speaking to something outside, hoping I got enough faith in that to make it happen, but I am that. In the beginning was the Word. It was true with God. It is true with you, because as above, so below. Macro, micro. It is the same way it works in your life, but you got to have that conviction. Even when others can't see it, you've got to know the cherries are growing on that tree. So, big question of the ages. So why are some people's prayers answered and others aren't? It is the attitude that goes into the prayer. It is the belief, or Ernest was talking about, you're dealing with this fluent something, but it's the emotions, it's the feeling, it's the embodiment, it is the embrace. The key is not in the prayer or the words, though we teach you in class how to get them really well, but it is in the prayer. It is the consciousness behind it. And Ernest Holmes states that the world is suffering from one big fear. Just one. That's not bad. And that is the fear that God will not answer our prayers. It is a misplaced faith, is what he talked about. It is a misuse of faith. That misplaced faith is put in the opposite of what you're looking for. It's put in your fear. So rather than feeling abundance, you're putting your faith in the fear of scarcity, of lack, of limitation. Not enough there. You got a health issue going on. Am I really going to get healed here? Am I really going to be healthy? You're misplacing your faith. Remember, it's the acquisition of that habitual mechanical kind of thinking in your mind that got you in this place. What is coming up is just the secondary causes of a consciousness that is behind it. And what it's saying is, you know what? You've misplaced your faith that has created this dynamic in your world. It is time to take charge and put your faith in a higher power, back into wholeness, back into the perfection, back into your body as the temple of God, and it knows how to heal. If you got the fear of death, it's because you're believing that death is a possibility rather than the immortality and the continuity of the individual soul that is forever expanding. If you truly did not misplace your faith, you would be that all-powerful, you would be as powerful as a snail climbing a cherry tree in the springtime. So I know that we have got that in us. So my challenge to you this week is to place your faith in the right spot, to have that attitude of prayer, to create that heavenly kingdom here on earth that you're walking in. And this world would be magical. We will watch it transform to the glory of heaven for all to experience. God bless us as we do this together. Hey, let's keep it going for Barry and Delene. Woo!
Oh, man.
I'd never wanted to be a snail before, and now I do.
I like what you were saying.
That.
I like what you were saying about blame and complain. That was really good stuff. In fact, we saw years ago we went to a seminar and we saw some people unburden themselves of blame, and shame. It was quite a moving experience. So much so that I wrote a song about it, and had the good sense to have her sing it.
Aww.
And this is our from our CD. It's called Song for Heroes.
Little Sunday morning jazz for you. He was a lonely boy, trapped inside his mind, searching for truth and joy. He took a look inside to find the memory of what happened when he was only 13. It ran his robotic life until he set it free. He walked away clean, gave up the shame, and took the burden off his back and threw it in the flames. He walked away clean from that machine and turned a brand new page at number 0. He was a hero. She was a happy girl, innocent and shy, life in a perfect world, until that man came by. For years she denied that it even mattered. answer the call. She gave up the blame, gave up the shame, and took the burden off her back and threw it in the flames. She walked away clean from that machine and turned a brand new page at number 0. She was a hero. Yeah, memories fade like a parade. Do you need to join in march along, or can you just enjoy the song? Disengage from meanings that you made. Jake took the burden off their backs and threw it in the flames. They walked away clean from that machine and turned a brand new page at number 0. They were all heroes. Yeah. Here now are you and me, with all the wreckage from our past. But there's a clue, you see. It's really gone, you're free at last. The road we all travel is narrow, winding and long, with no absolutes, good or bad, right or wrong. I'll give no more blame, take no more shame. I'll take the burden off my back and throw it in the flames. I'll walk away clean from that machine and turn a brand new page at number 0 to be a hero. Yeah, we are all heroes. Yeah, they were my heroes. Yeah, we are all heroes. Thank you so much.
That is Cahill and Delene. Woo!